Let's add the ability to scroll left and right when trying to swap our objects. Alright, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't thought about code a whole lot this week, and I didn't even know that today, well, it's about to be Friday. So that kind of snuck up on me, and I didn't put too much thought into code. So since we had a comment about wanting to do this, I figured, hey, we'll go ahead and turn it into a video. So what if you have your inventory and it's smaller than what you want to, or it's larger than what you want to display? Well, I've gone ahead and I've stuck a grid container, right? Our inventory that we had before. I've stuck that inside of the scroll container. And the grid container, as you can see from here, it goes off screen. So that allows us to be able to come in and scroll from the side. All right, we can come in, we can grab our container and we can scroll left and right. Fantastic. And for this, I just made my apples, made them not stackable, just so I could fill up the whole thing instead of making what, like 30 to 60 different items. 36 would have been. Instead of making 36 different items, I went ahead and just made the apples unstackable. All right, so we can go ahead with that, and all we're gonna do with our inventory inside of our scroll container here is first we're gonna go into our player and we're gonna update the path to our grid container, which again, better option here would be to use that unique name that we mentioned before, or to use an export to just put it in there. That way we can just avoid having to come back and adjust our pathing. But that's all we have to do in here. And back here, what we're going to need, and the way we're going to make this work is we're going to use two area 2Ds, and they're just going to have rectangles here. As you can see, we have one here, and we have it larger than normal, than you might expect. And that's just to make it easier to scroll, because if we actually shrink this down to just our visible area like so, that's going to be a little, well, it's a little annoying to kind of get to work, I'm going to be honest. So just making it larger like this and let it flow off the screen a bit works great. Completely solves the issue, just makes it, in a sense, just work. Alright, now to make these work, we're actually going to connect two signals, one from our left side and one from our right side, and we're going to connect the mouse entered signal and have this set up to a function called scrolling right entered, and the left one is connected to one called scroll left entered. In mouse exit, they're both connected to the same function called scroll area exit. And what we're going to use this for is basically when our mouse is over on the side, we're going to scroll to the left. And when our mouse is out of the area, we're going to stop scrolling. When we move it to, well, that was on the right. When we move it to the left, it's going to do the same thing, but go to the left, right? So it's going to go negative. And both of those are connected to a script that I put on the scroll container itself, so the scroll container can control itself. So here I have a variable called scroll direction. It's an integer, it's just set to 0. The 0 is going to be our default, meaning that we're not scrolling. And I have an onReady variable here for the grid container for a little later, and I can show you why there. I'll go ahead and uncomment this code. So when we enter the right side, we're going to set the scroll direction to 1. When we enter the left side, we'll set scroll direction to -1. And when we exit the either side, right, exit our scroll areas, it's going to be set to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to head up into our process function, and we're going to go ahead and say if scroll direction is not equal to 0. Right, then all we're going to do is we're going to get our horizontal scroll. So is it scroll first? Yes, scroll horizontal. And obviously if you want to do this for vertical, you'd have the same kind of setup, only you'd have a top and bottom, and you'd be adjusting your scroll vertical instead of scroll horizontal. So what we're going to do here is it's going to say scroll horizontal plus equals scroll direction. All right. So now if we were to come in here and we take a look, we can go in and we can move our mouse over and we can see it scroll just fine on the left and right. All right. Now you may not want that. You may want it to only work, say, when you're trying to move an object, or you might be okay with that. I don't know. That's going to be a personal preference for you, but I am going to show you a way that we can set that to work so that it only works when we when we are moving an object. Because otherwise, then you could just go down here, or scroll, of course, which of course is still an option here. But either way, I'm going to show you how to set that up as well. Alright, so this is where we come in, and we're basically going to say if the scroll direction isn't 0, and this is where we're going to get our grid container, right? So we're going to say gc.getChild. Whoops, if I spell that correctly. So we're going to get the first child dot moving, right? So now we're basically only going to be able to move when we are moving an object. So we go ahead and run that now, just by adding that one option in. Oh, and we see it's still going. So we're saying not equal to 0. All right. Let's see. So if scroll direction, and we can fix that simply by changing it from not equals to 0 to equals, right? So we check if scroll direction is equal to 0 or moving, then we can actually do this movement, which this obviously isn't going to work here, or theoretically, because when we're at 0, we're never actually going to be scrolling. Scroll direction is still going to be 0, so we're not going to be moving at all there. So we could probably get away with just going like this and checking if moving. So if we go ahead and check that, you can see obviously we can't go on the sides, but if we grab an object, we can come over, and while we are moving that object, we can actually scroll left and right. So if you want to do it that way, you certainly can. However, I would urge that we actually tweak this and actually move this into a function, and I'm going to show you why here. I head over to my player, and I'm just going to come in here. I'm just going to say wait 3 seconds. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear out the inventory, and you'll see the issue. So we clear that out, we immediately run into an issue because we don't have any children, so we can't perform this if check, so we run into an issue. So the way that we would get around that is we would do something like create a new function, and we'll say check moving, and we're actually going to return a bool on this. Making our if statement, there's going to be if check moving, and we'll say if gc.get children, and we don't have to ask for a count or anything because this on its own, if the array is empty that we get back, it's going to be false, and this isn't going to run. So if we have at least one child, then we're going to be able to go ahead and run this line, right? gc.getChildren0.moving, and it's just yelling at us now because we're not returning any booleans. So I'm just going to go ahead and say return or gc.getChild0moving, and it's still yelling at us because if we can't go into this if statement, then we're not returning anything. So we do have to make an extra or another return here, which is just going to be false. Because if we have no children moving, then we're obviously not trying to swap anything. So we're just going to set that to false. Now if we were to come in here and all of our objects get deleted, we have an empty inventory, we're not going to run into any issues here. And if I just come back in here and just comment that out real quick, and we run that, you can see I can still grab my objects and our scrolling works. So if you want to only be able to move when you're trying to swap objects and you're just moving it over to the side, and there you go. That's how you would go ahead and do that. That up, save that, Alright, so this is basically working off of two areas. One on the left, one on the right. It's keeping track of whether we were moused into that area or not. And if we are, then we set the scroll direction based on whether we're in the left side or right side, or if we've exited. And that scroll direction is what's going to allow us to move and scroll, or adjust the scroll horizontal property or scroll vertical. You want to go with the top-down approach of our scroll container. And we've created a function called check moving. That way we avoid any errors in case our inventory is empty. Alright, hopefully that was easy to follow and that you guys could understand that easy enough. But that's going to be it here. Something simple, small, and with that, take care, have yourselves a good one. If there's anything you guys want to see, of course, leave it in the comments, and I'll see you next time.